Okay, today is the first real hiking day. I decided to take an adventure out into the wilderness and do some hiking along the Deschutes River. So I'd say we're about maybe 5 miles from my place, south of that, and we're along Century, and Century is the road that goes all the way up to Bachelor, which is very, very tempting, but it being a weekend day, today's Sunday, I'm sure Bachelor is going to be crazy, and I just don't want to deal with that. I'll do it on a weekday. So anyway, it's a very popular road. You can see a lot of people taking up snowmobiles, cross-country skis, all sorts of stuff. So, but we've parked over here behind me. This is kind of a little parking spot for those who want to hike along the river. And you'll see that there's still some snow left over from snowing the other day. And I think there are 3 or 4 trails along here, and I'm looking for the 4-mile trail, which will give me an 8-mile round trip. I have no idea what kind of terrain it's going to be, just right into the forest. You can see it's a little popular today. It's a beautiful day out here. I don't know, it's got to be high 40s. I expect it to get up to maybe even low 50s today, but I don't think we're gonna run into a lot of people because it looks pretty sparse out there, even though there's a lot of cars. I think people are just taking their dogs for short walks, but this will be fun. Hoping to get some great views, show you guys the amazing peaks with the snow on top. But this is the beginning. It's probably, I'm gonna guess it's probably 12:30, maybe 1ish. Packed myself a little lunch, got myself a little book with a little beer, and we'll see you down the trail. Well, this really is a great way to show the reason why we're here. The reason we're in Bend. This really only is about 1.5 miles from Century, but this is the Deschutes. And there was more trails than I can count. They crisscrossed, but I saw maybe half dozen people, almost everybody with dogs. There was a father with some kids that were looking for a what do you call it? It's like kind of like the hide and seek thing. You know, people hide stuff and then they give you coordinates, GPS coordinates, like latitude, longitude, and then you go find it. But what a great sight. Oh, this is beautiful. And here's today's lunch. Today's lunch was sponsored by New Belgium and their Pray for Snow. Richard and Lauren for their spicy bacon peanut brittle. The good people at Food for Less, sorry Dad, for the quesadilla. And Corey Keltson for the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo book. So we're gonna crack open that bottle. We're probably gonna sit here for, I don't know, doesn't matter, right? I might even fall asleep here. This is beautiful. Plenty of trails. You can't hear a sound except for the river. So who knows, I may even get into fishing being out here. So we'll get back at you when we leave. Alright, after finishing lunch, having a nice little relax, reading a couple chapters in the book, I started hiking along the Deschutes River Trail, which I guess I hadn't technically found until this point. So I left the river. I'm heading northeast along the Deschutes River Trail. I had to decide between the river loop or the Deschutes River Trail, so I chose the latter. I just pulled into this clearing here, and this nice rock outcrop. Still see the snow on the ground. It's interesting. You'll come into areas where there's not that many trees, and then you see this is all this scrubby stuff. It's not always like this. You know, I was back a half mile and it was just cleared out forest ground. But you know, there really isn't a lot of stuff on the ground, so this stuff may be dry and it may burn, but back in the forest, you know, if a fire goes up, it's not going to rage for weeks and months because it's really cleared out. But when you look at this from an aerial view, you'll find really open area, and the trees tend to be sparse in places, which is funny. You look back, it looks pretty dense, but this is a pretty well run trail. We have some people coming up the trail right now, and I won't film for too long, but it's a really nice hike so far. I'm enjoying it. Here's another totally different spot. Still open, but you notice all that scrub is pretty much gone. Of course it's very dry, but I imagine stuff like that will turn green in the spring and summer. But we're not too far, as you can see, a house out there. We're not too far from people's residence, but you know, out here people live anywhere because everything's beautiful. So they really are houses kind of out on their own. So just to give you an idea, that is kind of northeast, and that is towards Bend. If I were up a little higher, you'd be able to see, and probably through those trees, is that lava butte out by the new, whatever the caldera is called out there. The new, God, I should know this. Anyway, you can see it really well from Pilot Butte. That way, if the trees weren't there, you'd be able to see Bachelor, because that's the way Century heads out. And if those trees weren't there, you'd be able to see Sisters, Broken Top, and a little bit this direction, you'd be able to see Washington and Jefferson. So no guarantee if we get up on this rise up here a little bit, maybe we'll be able to see those, but we'll see what happens. Good trail still, a little muddy, but there's so many trails out here. I can't imagine there's a map that covers all these. They crisscross, you know, every 100 yards, so it's great. All right, we didn't come very far, but I'm not sure I'm going to get a better view than this on this trail. So either straight ahead or out there is that view. It's tough to tell. I think it's that one, and that's on the way to La Pine. So if you're coming up 97, you pass this butte, and that's where the lava flow goes right up to the highway. And then if I remember correctly, out there, the name of that is the New Auberry Caldera and lava field. So it's closed during the winter. We will go there as soon as spring comes and they reopen. But I think we're at the high point here. And we're going to go down, back down towards the highway. But and you see a lot more down stuff up here. But all in all, still very clean forest floor. And you see some development out there, so we're going to keep on moving. Okay, I'll try not to make this too jittery for you. So here's the cool thing. You can get lost, but you can't really be lost, you know? There's so many trails. Like right now, I just have a general idea of where I'm at, and I could check my I could check on the maps because it's, you know, connected by satellite GPS. But even though there's so many trails and they crisscross, and I've never taken the same trail twice, and I'm not even headed in the right direction, you could follow either A, the river, that goes to town, that's easy. B, you could head towards the sound of the highway. C, you could get up high enough to see the power lines and head towards the power lines, because I crossed those at some point. Or worst case scenario, you could just head towards the peaks you can see, because sometimes they're high enough to where you can see the peaks. You're probably getting sick by now of all the bouncing around, but I mean, these trails crisscross each other so many times. And then wherever you dump out at, like I'm gonna run into some power lines here in a minute. And then when I first drove up here, I stopped at the Entrada Lodge, and at the Entrada Lodge, I asked the guy about the trails. Where was the trailhead? Because I heard they were by the lodge, and I could have parked across the street, kind of on the shoulder, or I drove a quarter of a mile up to where we filmed the first shot. So I know where Entrada's at on the map. It's right off the highway. So if I get to Entrada, then I know I just have to head southwest towards my car. But stop for a second, look back to where I came from, and look, power lines. I'm not sure if they're my power lines that I need to go towards, but still, I think, and I hear the highway a lot more now, so we'll just keep heading in that direction and see what happens.